Oh, the new digital clock. We are.
We have our consultants for the comp plan here. Does anyone mind to go
Is it a
first?
show?
For a fee? For a fee?
Or a fee?
Yes, okay. Okay, we can do that. We're volunteers. We gotta make our money any way we can, so. All right, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. You wanna do it after the opening and, got you. All right. Here we go. It's 6 o'clock. Welcome to the Villa Rica Planning Commission meeting on Tuesday, March the 27th, 2018. This is the call to order. Next up, you have the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. All those in favor, do so by raising your right hand. All opposed? Motion carries 4-0, adopting the agenda. You want to do it before old business?
We got minutes.
Minutes. Where's the minutes? Minutes. Minutes aren't on the agenda, but I will amend that to say we will add the minutes to the agenda. It is, oh, there it is, I'm sorry.
Minutes.
I took my glasses off. It's under old business. Minutes. Everybody have a copy of the minutes.
I see no problem with the minutes. I move approval.
Got a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second? And a third? All those in favor raise their right hand to approve the minutes. All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Now, prior to new business, okay, this is to discuss the comprehensive plan. Does he have to state his name and address and all that? Social security number, credit card number,
Are you a citizen?
credit score. I like that credit score.
You can tell I'm a banker.
Maybe bringing it up now.
There we go.
We're gonna start with the comprehensive plan update from our consultants, Amex Foster Woodward. We have Ron Huffman and Anna Johnson here.
Thank y'all. Appreciate you letting us go first.
Sure.
I'm Ron Huffman with Amex Foster Wheeler. Anna Johnson.
I'm sorry, what was your name?
Ron Huffman.
Ron Huffman.
Ron Huffman. It's not a stranger to Villa Rica. Designed the amphitheater over there years ago for y'all. And we're going to tag team this presentation to kind of work through it together. This first question, have any of y'all gone through a comprehensive plan before?
Yeah.
Is that it? So a couple of you have, a couple of you haven't. Okay. So some of this may be old news to you, but it's we have sort of a standard presentation just to run through our timeline and components of it. We have some new information that might be some interest to you. We have an online survey that's running and pretty good response.
Yeah, Inga said it's up to almost 400 responses.
Good,
Which is
good.
really good. Back in the old days when we did comp plans, the attendance at the audience was about all you could get. So with surveys now, we're getting a lot better info into our
I'm surprised there hasn't been more activity with the steering committee, however.
Well, that's coming up. We have another meeting coming up with them in April.
In April, right. And then after that, you'll probably hear from us more. It'll be quick paced after that. We're still in the initial existing conditions analysis phase, which is pretty cumbersome.
Yeah, and data collection.
Yeah.
So if we can advance the, sure. Can I?
And so we do
You have it
not,
on your screen?
we do, yeah, I got it here.
Yeah.
But we do not have a written summary of this in our package, is that correct?
No, this is coming under staff comment.
Okay, so it's just the video
Just
is
the,
all we got.
Oh, here we go, here we go.
We can go to the next slide too.
We can email you all copies of this, and we're gonna also post it on the website.
So a comprehensive plan, just a quick overview. It's often confused with zoning, but it's not. A comprehensive plan is not zoning, it's policy document. We spend most of our time working with you and steering committee, city council, crafting policy. And I always say policy because what we're trying to do is create something that is living and has a chance to live for 20 years if we write the policies correctly. If we think of it as zoning, you know the minute you do a zoning map, it might be amended. policies have a much more lasting impact, I think. You also probably are aware, if you're not, that this is a state requirement. It was suspended for a little while, but it's back in full roar again. We do a comprehensive plan every 5 years, and you're on schedule to have yours turned in by the fall of this year, by October of 2018.
Is it the Department of Community Affairs?
Correct.
Okay.
Department of Community Affairs is the administrative agency for it. Correct? Denise? Thank you. We'll walk through the process, go to the next one. And this is probably very familiar to you as well. The stage where we are now is right there at the first one. Where are we? And that's assembling data, statistics, analyzing information. And as much as I'm familiar with Villa-Rica, I don't know it the way I need to know it for a comprehensive plan, and that's what we're doing now. Is studying and assembling data, and that's why we have the online survey going. The where are we going? That's actually
What exactly, what data are you?
some of them.
Okay.
The where are we going is we start crafting policies based on our data research. We start crafting policies. The where do we want to go? Well, those two boxes kind of work together. Where are we going is like, well, you don't have any policies and you're just following the same path. Where are you headed? Versus where do you want to go? Where we actually write a policy and create a plan. And then how are we going to get there? One of the things the state did years ago when they passed the Georgia Planning Act is require that we have a short-term work program, which is a 5-year work program that identifies project by project with funding source and schedule as to when these things will be done. And that will be part of this comprehensive plan. So I've already talked about the stage where we are now, the existing conditions, and I think at this point is where Anna's going to jump in and start talking about some of the data that we've assembled so far.
Right. So these are some of the different topics we're looking at right now. We're looking at census data, which gives us information about the population and different characteristics of the population, age distribution, employment, different industries, which industries employ the most people. We look at income, housing, types of housing. We compare information from previous census data, 2000, 2010, up to the 2016 American Community Surveys update, so we can start to identify different trends that we're seeing. And if you can go to the next slide, I'll give you a couple examples. So population, we're seeing that there's steady population growth in Villa-Rica. And since 2000, the population has more than tripled, which is pretty significant. Much more than both Douglas and Carroll County. And that's another thing we do is compare trends in Villa-Rica with that of the county to see how they compare in the state as well. So we're seeing so from 2000 to 2010, there was exponential growth, almost 230% population growth. And although that has since slowed down, it's still a steady increase at 8.2%. So when you're thinking about the growing population, then we take some of the things that we heard in the steering committee about infrastructure, about road connections, and so we know that we need to look at level of service standards and infrastructure facilities. What are the conditions of those? So that's all the information that we're gathering and analyzing right now. Another thing, age distribution. This is showing us that there's a young population, a lot of families in Villa-Rica. I recently moved here from Florida, and the age distribution was the complete opposite on the other side of the scale. So we were planning for retirement communities, living in place, assisted living facilities. In Villa-Rica, we're going to be thinking about another thing we heard from the steering committee, youth programs, how to get families involved, the Greenway system, what activities and programs can the city invest in to accommodate that growing population. The median age in Villa-Rica is 32.8, which is pretty low, big young adult population. And then you can go to the next one. These are a couple other characteristics: employment, housing, and income. Some of the top industries in Villa-Rica: education, healthcare, social assistance, and then office jobs, professional, scientific. So you have finance, accounting, architecture, third is manufacturing, and then fourth is the service industry. So when you're looking at employment, another thing we see is that 60% of the population is commuting outside of the county to work. So maybe the city wants to think about how can we retain that employment in the county and build a more sustainable economic base.
Excuse me, Anna,
Yes,
what was your last name?
Johnson.
You say civilian population, civilian labor force accounts for 67% of the labor?
Yes.
What's, I'm not aware of a military labor force.
That, it does not include military.
So when you say civilian is 67%, what's the other 33%?
So the civilian labor force, that's just the population that's 16 and over. And then the other percent is
Oh.
going to be armed forces, I believe, the military, and then unemployed.
So the 33% would be military, unemployed,
Oh, yes, yes.
retired, that sort of thing?
Right, right.
Okay.
Right. Yes. Other trends we're looking at in housing, how has the housing supply changed since 2010? Where do we think it's going to go? And when it's growing, what are some of the other infrastructure needs that the city may have? And Billerica has a strong middle class. The median income is over 48,000. Occupied housing units at 93%, and then the median income the median home value is over 127,000.
What are you basing some of these projections on? Because the current comprehensive plan really is out of date. I mean, it didn't even include Mirror Lake, for instance.
Right.
And so the census is 2010. What data are you using to project
So
these growths?
the most updated census data, they release these every year. It's a 5-year estimate. The current estimate is from 2012 to 2016. It's called
Okay.
the American Community Survey. And it's not necessarily as accurate as the 10-year census, but it does provide
Okay.
a good estimate about where we are. It's a sampling of the different characteristics in the population.
What about housing?
The same.
The same?
So the community survey, it encompasses all of the same information that the 10-year census.
Okay.
So that leads us to public participation.
Well,
Okay,
I guess we have the survey that's ongoing.
right, survey is ongoing,
We've had 400 some odd,
400
Responses.
responses, right.
and hopefully maybe some of you have looked at our responses. We had our first steering committee meeting, sort of a kickoff meeting in January. The second one is scheduled for,
It's coming up the 17th of April, and in that meeting, we're gonna be giving you the results of not only some of our existing conditions analysis, but also what has the survey been telling us. And also that week, on the 19th, we're having a public visioning workshop where we again will get the information from the survey and then do some group exercises about, just gathering more public input.
where do we want to go?
Right, where do we want to go? Exactly. And then, so that's the visioning workshop will be on the April 19th. And then you can go a couple down there, one more. This is good. The land use charrette. So that will be another opportunity to gather public input on potential land uses for the city. It'll be another, open to the public group exercises, interactive.
Tentatively scheduled for May.
Right.
And
And then, the open house. And actually, if you could go down one more, I think actually, there's a timeline. But after the charrette, we would have an open house and present our findings from input we've gathered, as well as from our own research, and gather feedback on that. So this is a tentative timeline with the final plan being adopted in October.
open house in July.
Open house in July.
And how we typically do an open house is we'll already have some sort of draft pulled together. But the open house will occupy a space like this, or central space all day, with all the plans, and it allows a one-on-one interaction with anyone who's interested in comprehensive plan.
There's not necessarily a presentation, it's
Correct,
people
it's a-
can come, ask the questions, give
Take
their
as much
feedback.
time as they want to read and learn and understand, and we'll have it staffed so we can answer those questions. We just found it works a whole lot better rather than have a 1 hour public meeting. To have an all-day open house, we just get a whole lot more meaningful input, and then I think the public gets a lot more out of it,
Right.
because we can sit there one-on-one and discuss.
Now, we have gone through a pretty comprehensive plan last year with the University of Georgia Vinson study, the RSVP program. How are you incorporating that? Because that really did a lot of this.
It did, and we drove around earlier today and we're identifying where some of their projects were located. And actually, some of my friends from grad school worked on that project
Okay.
when we were there. So we are using that plan, we're looking at, old comprehensive plans, the urban redevelopment plans, any existing plans related to Villa Rica. We're going through those, looking at what were their projections, where were, because they gathered a lot of public input. So I've been using that and the initial feedback that we got from the steering committee. That helps us, once we identify the trends, then the next step is to start, where are we gonna go? How do we incorporate this into the plan? What policies can the city implement? And that will be part of our final recommendation. So we definitely, that's, like you said, they did a lot of work, got a lot of public input back, so I've had that open a lot
Okay.
lately.
But again, that was a study that we did at that time, and it's not necessarily, the answer.
Right.
The comprehensive plan will be the answer. So,
Comprehensive plan's a policy document, a bit different. And I've studied this cover to cover and working it over pretty thoroughly, actually. So I'm revisiting just about everything that's going on downtown and taking a close look at it. And this, to me, is a great starting point.
right.
And it's a good policy document, actually, because I constantly refer to it, that what were you thinking? What is the, but there's an awful lot of Photoshop imagination here that's great.
Ideas.
Ideas, right, but what I'm doing is truthing a lot of this, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I'm trying to truth a lot of it and see what works, and solve some of the heavy truck issues here and some of the circulation and things like that. But yeah, I literally read it just about
Okay,
every
good.
day.
Is this plan, because I remembered reading the last 2 or 3 here, and then when I was on the county zoning board about 20 years ago, you were saying this is more policy to, pretty much for the most part, to turn into the Department of Community Affairs. For instance, the city of Villa Rica, because I'm the chairman of the Villa Rica Development Authority, and we have no land to push, to get another factory. When I say no land, no large tracts, and the only way we're gonna get it is to annex. Is that something feasible in this study?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay,
Because again, that's, you just stated policy.
okay, and also industries that we might wanna track.
Correct.
Okay.
You identified a couple of policies. One would be to acquire land for future industrial development. Another one is to encourage industrial development. And maybe that requires different financing or different incentives to
Right.
encourage that or something. No, so you stated policies, but comprehensive plan, this one, it actually has 2 aspects to it, because your city council also approved for me to take a closer look at things. So we're actually doing 2 components. We're doing a comprehensive plan to meet the state standards. We're going to write the policies. We're going to assemble goals and objectives, short-term work program, traditional comprehensive plan. The city council's also asked me to take a close look at things like this, and I'm actually working up a separate sort of plans to look at things like downtown, look at some proposed road improvements. I met with Tom, and he talked about looking at land for industrial developments, and actually spinning off from the comprehensive plan a little extra time to look at some of these special issues.
Okay.
So anything that you have that is of interest, tell me, because because that's part of what Tom is like, Ron, we want you to look at some special projects, there's some road improvements that are being talked about, he wants me to look at those, make sure that they work, what kind of impact they're gonna have downtown, you know, things like that. So anything you can think of, that you feel free to either tell me now or send an email, whatever, let us know. It's a little more in depth than a normal comprehensive plan.
Because in a nutshell, we've got, in the 2 sites that we're, quote, in charge of, we have small tracks, 5 acres, stuff like that, but nothing we can either put together to where, you know, you put a 200,000 square foot building, 300,000 square foot building. The sweet spot would be 50 acres, between 50 and 75 acre tract. Going to the west, as far as there's not a lot for Douglas because they have the Dog River Basin issue that's a hot potato, and you can't build nothing on it. You know, they're really going to be tough. So it'd probably have to be more the Carroll side as far as that goes. Perfect. There's my 2 cents.
Before you guys wrap up, let me ask about the information you're gathering on the population data that you're coming up with. I didn't see anything that emphasized those who live and work in Villa Rica versus those who live here and work elsewhere. And is that a,
You'd mentioned that.
That's,
Anna,
yeah, so that's part of the information that we're gathering.
okay, but it wasn't reflected in the,
Yeah, this was just an example of how we
Yeah.
find the
Okay.
trends and how they inform the recommendations and policies.
what are you seeing? Do you know, percentage-wise, how many people work outside of Villa Rica? I mean, I'm thinking it's
Outside, it was 60% were commuting to work outside,
yeah, I'm not surprised about that.
outside of, where they live.
Yeah,
So-
okay.
And then, you know, you can go a step further and figure out where they're actually going.
Are you gonna drill-
Most of them are going to Atlanta.
You're gonna drill down any to find out why they considered this to be their attractive bedroom community and, why they wanna live here and commute? Cause that's a pretty decent commute.
It is, the average commute time was over 20 minutes, but I know some of them were over an hour.
Yeah.
Most, I mean, even,
I got you to
Took me
Thornton
on.
Road.
Yeah, no, 20 minutes. I'm thinking on a good day.
Thornton.
Yeah, I have to go to Emory
Yeah.
quite often, and that's an hour.
Easy.
Easy.
Yeah, the state puts out those stats, and I just laugh, you know, in those meetings. It's a 25-minute commute.
Yeah, right. Maybe in a state patrol car with the lights flashing.
Yeah.
Well, of course, the job centers are moving out.
Yeah.
You know, they're not just Atlanta anymore, they're moving out, you said Thornton Road, I mean,
Yeah.
there's so much business going on there, they keep moving out, which means the commutes.
And a lot of telecommuting eases that too, so.
Are you evaluating any of the school situations?
yeah, I mean, we look at everything, the community facilities, and what do you mean in terms of the?
Well,
like
we've got a significant problem in the Douglas County side of Villa Rica, because we have an elementary school, but there's no middle school, there's no high school. So all of those students have to go basically to Douglasville, to high school. And that's causing a lot of problems. We're seeing people moving away from this area because of the lack of that high school.
So that's something that we would definitely make a priority in the plan. We do look at education, community facilities, where, you know, identify if there's a deficit somewhere and some possible, you know, ways we can address that.
I agree with John, and I've known several families that have moved to Bremen or over in Carroll County, something like that, because as their children got to be 9, 10 years old, they didn't want them to go to the farther away middle and high schools in Douglas County. I think definitely you ought to include that in your study.
Yeah,
Sure.
we include, like, we'll interview the school board folks as a stakeholder in the project,
If you can find the names of families who have moved away, I think
but that would be good.
you get an interesting twist and probably a different interpretation than you might get from school board members.
Yeah,
Guaranteed.
I was gonna say, historically, school boards, you know, they operate almost independently. So they're historically difficult to roll into a comprehensive plan.
Yes.
They tend to have their own forecasts, their own.
But it affects it's a driver of population
Absolutely.
satisfaction and, yeah.
When the guys, the prospects for the factories come in, that's one of the things that's on their bullet list right off the bat before they get off the plane is this, school systems.
And it's really rapidly becoming a major, major problem for us.
It affects property values
Yes.
on the Douglas County side too.
Everybody else? Good?
Nope.
Do you have anything else? Didn't mean to be.
No.
Okay.
Keep up the good work.
Yeah, this is great. This is great. Thank you very much.
When will the agenda come out for the next steering committee?
I believe that we're gonna be sending around a flyer, and that should be soon. If the steering committee meeting was the 17th, that should be soon. So we will, follow up with release and then after lunch.
Okay.
Next week.
Yeah. I know they were working on the flyer. So it should be soon.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay. All right. Let's see, so that moves us back up to new business. First up is the reading of the ordinance.
All right. Good evening, everyone. First up, we have ordinance 01-18. It's an ordinance for the purpose of amending Article 3 zoning districts, Table 3-1.A downtown overlay land use matrix, and Article 11 definitions of the Unified Development Code to provide an effective date and for other purposes. In short, the UDC currently does not have a definition for kennels. We were previously approached by a citizen to kind of go over what the process would be to have a kennel in the downtown district. So staff did some research. We noted primarily first that we did not have a definition of a kennel, which, as you probably all know, is just the boarding and keeping of animals, not limited.
Dogs and cats.
Well, dogs and cats.
So do you intend to include other animals?
Well, broadly to me, that's what a kennel is. But for the purposes of this, it would be just for dogs and cats.
I was about to say, because the definition only mentions dogs and
Right.
cats.
No, it's not for anything outside of dogs and cats. My apologies.
No llamas or anything.
Goats or chickens?
You know, who knows what the future brings.
They approved
We may domesticate
Was it
llamas
dwarf?
to
Nigerian
3-foot
goats.
size.
So they're little enough they can fit in a kennel. So I won't go there.
So first we
Already
wanted to kind of remedy that we did not have a definition. And second, explore the option of adding it to the land use matrix in the downtown area as a conditional use. Currently, as it stands, kennels are only allowed as permitted uses in our neighborhood commercial, general commercial, heavy commercial districts, and industrial. It's allowed as a conditional use in our rural development districts. So we're recommending that it be added to the commercial mixed use and check the matrix. My matrix. Commercial mixed use and the commercial district in the downtown overlay. Now these districts are they're primarily outside of, on the edges of the downtown overlay. It's not going to be along the main corridor. And this would provide a mechanism for an application of such to be considered. As doing it as a conditional use will allow the planning commission to recommend conditions of approval if so approved, and for city council to do the same as well. It does not permit it by right anywhere in the downtown, because we recognize that as far as downtowns go, it has some compatibility issues, but there have been, it can fit, but it really kind of needs to be crafted in areas where it's not something that's gonna be obtrusive to neighbors or create a nuisance for
Deterrent
everyone
from
else.
it, yeah.
So, at a minimum, we wanted to give an opportunity for it to be presented to planning commission and to council as a conditional use. So,
But you're proposing just the definition of what a kennel is that correct?
No.
And also the conditional.
and the
Also
conditional use
conditional
for
uses.
the,
I found the page right here.
and as a
'Cause I
conditional
did-
use in the,
Okay.
to
That's
update
what I
the
was
land,
looking for.
the
Yeah.
matrix
Okay.
to
Just in
include.
2 areas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't see that as I was looking through. Okay.
Let me say pardon me, in the affected parties are the people who live and or work or have property around where one will be located, but also the animals involved. And, you know, a facility that involves day boarding and grooming is one thing, but a long-term boarding facility of dogs and cats is something else. And I don't want that next to my place of business nor next to my home. And besides which, we're not doing any favor if you have a Labrador Retriever or a Golden Retriever or some of the larger breeds, some mountain dogs or something like that, of which there are those around here, because I've seen some. You can't have that in the downtown area. Those dogs need to have room to be walked, and the facility itself needs to have enough exercise yard. You cannot take a dog that's 120 pounds and put him in a kennel and expect he's just going to live there for a week in a crate or something, okay? They need exercise area, they need fresh air, and sunshine and place to roam and romp and run around, and as well as, you know, perhaps being walked by a handler. And so I don't mind you know, if you're talking about in the downtown area or what's and adjacent residential areas, okay, I can see a day boarding and a grooming facility. But if you're going to get into some of these other things, you need more space, and I don't think they need to be crammed in with active commercial business areas and residential areas. Bernese Mountain Dog, that's what I was trying to think of, and some of these other Newfoundlands or things of that nature. You get a dog that size, you know, Miss Titterback could ride them like a small pony. I mean, those are big dogs, and you're just as likely to have those as you are Chihuahuas.
Are those the type of things that would fall under the conditional use?
Certainly, as a part of the consideration of the application, I don't have the list right directly in front of me, but as a conditional, as a special use permit or conditional use permit, there's a list of criteria that we'll have to consider, and the impact on the surrounding properties, noise, light, air, you know, any kind of nuisance or obnoxious anything going on, will have to be mitigated. As far as, you know, the movement and circulation, the safety of the animals, that has to be considered, and that's where there's an opportunity to place conditions on how much space they need. Does it need to be fenced in? What kind of supervision will be there? Who's going to be? How many employees? What times and manner of operation? Parking.
And it's a
ingress,
conditional
egress.
use, so it comes up every year, right?
You can also place that as a stipulation.
Place that.
That it,
way-
you know.
All right. It concerns me, I wish there would be a little more specificity
Right.
written in to the language here, so that it's actually down in writing that says these things need to be considered, and
And I don't know that there's a need in the downtown area with as much rural as we have.
right.
I mean, it's not like we're in an urban development where there is no option for kennel.
Right. But as the owner of a 95-pound golden retriever, I can speak with some experience.
No.
So is there a motion?
Well, I mean, I would say a motion to approve the definition.
With the addition of some of the concerns we were talking about.
Well, the definition of just dogs and cats, and,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we can put the definition there. I'm not sure what y'all want to do with the conditional
It's,
approval. Those are two separate things, right?
Well, yeah, I mean.
The
you can
conditional use is
separate 'em
one
if you
thing.
wanna vote,
Yeah.
or, you know.
We need a definition. We don't have one.
plus
Right,
the other is
you don't
to vote on the
Conditional
zoning
use.
classification
Yeah.
for the kennels. They have to
Right.
be,
Right, for them to be, right now the
Commercial.
consideration is to add them to the downtown overlay district land
Right.
use matrix in the two spaces.
Because they're already in the rural and the other areas that we talked about, correct?
in lieu of the rural, or in addition.
In
is it-
addition to.
It is in addition to rural, or,
Well, yeah, they're already permitted in, well, it's by conditional use only in rural, and, it's permitted by right in neighborhood commercial, heavy commercial, general commercial, and the industrial district.
Yeah, everywhere, pretty much, but downtown.
Yeah, well, except for the other residential.
Residential,
district,
yeah,
right,
yeah, yeah,
like the office institutional districts.
right. Well, I move to pass the definition as stated here, because we don't have one.
we have a motion to approve the definition as stated. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All those to approve, raise your right hand. All opposed? Carries 4-0.
What do y'all want to do with conditional use?
Hmm.
Oh, Chris Pike here from the downtown district.
That would be fabulous.
Offer some cool things to say.
I like the way folks use me to throw under the bus.
All right.
Good evening.
It's a tough job. Somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to get ran over. and that would be me. We've been working with community development on this now almost a year. It seems like, maybe longer. And we had some reservations in the beginning with this. I think from our standpoint, we're comfortable with the fact that we are placing conditional uses on specific requests. Obviously, land use is going to, or space and outdoor land is going to be restrictive. Where in downtown they can do that, which is why I think we're opting not to allow it in the central business district, which is what we consider the blocks of buildings that are all connected, because obviously there's no outdoor land. There are areas adjacent to downtown which are still considered downtown, which would be conducive for this type of use with specific conditions on it, which is why we've supported the conditional use and the project that is being presented. Are y'all presenting the project? No. This is- Okay.
Y'all not worried that it's going to hinder other people wanting to come in when this eventually becomes more populated, to bring other businesses into downtown that might see that as something they detract from their want to be here?
I think if we restricted to specific areas that maybe aren't conducive for any future growth, I think we'll be fine with that. We have other areas, and specifically that we're looking at doing some future, either in the comp plan or through the RSVP plan, that would restrict that type of use. But I don't see in the immediate next 10 to 15 years that may be an issue.
And with the conditional use, you can put the timeline on it so you can always end it if it's going to be.
Well, if that's a
an area.
condition of awarding you.
All right. Want to vote on it?
I guess I could make a motion to approve this as a conditional use, as stated, with a 1-year limit.
Or just a time limit?
Do you have to specify a time limit, or?
Conditional
As you
use.
mean that, so you would want the applicant, whoever's running it, to come back every year to,
Or
So-
2 years, 3 years, you see what I'm saying? That way, when they come back, we can see what
Is
they
that
put
an
in.
application by application basis?
To your point.
typically?
Why don't we do 1 year, and then if everything's going fine, next year, we can just say 5 years.
5 years, right. I'd say on the initial
Or-
1 year, and that way we'll see.
What, I mean, with conditional use, is that part of the process where you put a time limit, you could put a time limit on it?
that's, you can stipulate that as a condition of approval. That's like, as the conditional use permit, you can add in other conditions.
Once it comes to us.
Right, and
Okay.
that, I've seen before where it's, you know,
So that would be probably
it's,
appropriate.
yeah,
can handle
the
it at
conditional
that
use
stage.
permit
Okay,
expires
I'm
with
fine.
the owner.
That's one of the elements
applicant
that you can-
changes.
right.
Okay.
Or you can say every 3 years, 5 years.
Depending on the project and what's being presented.
Right, you can always propose, you know, conditions.
Yeah, that's, I mean, that's what I
something like
thought,
that.
yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I move to vote,
To approve.
to approve, yeah.
Okay. We have a motion to approve this overlay as stated.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? It's approved.
The bus wasn't too heavy, was it?
I wasn't too bad.
Okay.
It'll be much worse Thursday.
Guaranteed.
Okay, next we have a preliminary plat application, preliminary plat 01-18, Liberty Custom Homes LLC of Douglasville, Georgia. Request preliminary plat approval for Liberty Point Phase 2 located at Enclave Drive, Villa Rica, Georgia, parcel number 018002500003 and land lot 180 of the 25th District in Douglas County. Currently zoned planned development. Property consists of 32.61 plus or minus acres and is located in Ward 4. This preliminary plat, there's quite some history for this. So, the original application for this plat was approved in 2006.
Right.
I think I included a portion of the minutes regarding that, where it rezoned from R14 to planned development. At that point, it was such a big development. I think it was over 200 acres. The ARC, I'm sorry.
That's the application that's in the package here that's September 26th of 2006,
Right, that's the staff report and minutes from that.
from that
Just-
approval.
right, this is just to give some background context. for
And was that the approval that allowed or set forth for them to get started on phase 1, which is out there now?
Well, it got them the zoning for the planned development. Following that, they platted phase 1.
Huh.
Got to final plat of phase 1. Did a preliminary plat of phase 2, and you can see some of the infrastructure that's in there.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been out to the site, you can see where the poles are in the ground and everything. Economic downturn happens. Construction gets halted. At this point, they are almost finished with phase 1 if you've been out there. So it's been picking back up, and they at this point want to plat phase 2, which is the remaining portion, and start, I believe, in the western portion of it to final plat first and move forward. So we asked them to come in, they spoke with us at a meeting, and we just asked that they update the plat from 2006, because apparently, a lot has gone on since then. Our needs have changed. So they were compliant. They did that, and they're looking to move forward and final plat the subdivision to put it back to use, put the land back to use. The applicant is here to speak regarding this.
All right, at this time, if the applicant or representative of the applicant would step forward and state his case.
Yes, sir. It's just a continuation of the next unit. It was, that had,
Oh, I'm sorry, for just for the microphone and that your name and address.
Yes, Paul H. Robinson Jr. I'm the manager at Liberty Custom Homes. And it's just a continuation of the development that's there. We, when we developed that, we had to run a water line and sewer lines all in the back to tie into the city. So that's why all the roads were cut and the lots platted out. And of course, like she said, the economy got a little slow, and so it's been moving slow. But now it's coming back, and gratefully we've got we're doing very well out there now.
Now, you are Liberty Custom Homes.
Yes, sir.
This original plat and approval was with Trey.
That's my son.
Oh, okay. So is there some kind of a transfer of that property from Trey to you?
Yes, sir. We just moved it into, I purchased it from him, and I'm developing it now.
Because there's no show of any transfer of that property in this material.
No, sir. We purchased it outright.
But shouldn't there be something to show that? How do we know?
I mean, it's in the deeds that's existing. The plat from 2006 was in his name, and now I purchased it since then, and I don't know. It has a warranty deed on it.
Don't we usually see those kinds of transfers with the package?
Staff question, right.
A lot of it now is just go on the tax assessor, and it shows the Liberty Homes on the tax assessor site.
Mhm.
So that's what I base it on. It shows that. I'll be sure to include that.
Okay. Now, is Liberty, you're the owner of the property, are you the developer, the builder,
The owner.
the declarant?
No, sir. We're the owner and the developer, and we have another builder that's building the lots. That's actually building the houses. Wade Jerderman Homes.
Okay.
You're just selling lots to him.
Yes, sir.
So it's basically like a declarant, then. You're selling the lots to somebody who will build.
That's
on
correct.
Is there an HOA associated with
Yes,
this?
sir. It is.
And you established the HOA
That's
and the
correct.
covenants.
That's correct.
Okay, so he has to live with all that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we have our clubhouse and pool and tennis courts and all that are already up and running.
Is it considered to be a PUD?
Yes, sir, it is.
Again, going back to the comment that I made for the comprehensive plan, what are the considerations for schools? I mean, with the you're talking about what, adding 200 new homes
Yes, sir.
in this area. Mirror Lake Elementary School is already full.
Well-
And those are going to be for young families.
Absolutely. Not so much young families as young people coming out of apartments. We're bringing them, we're bringing them in the price range that they can have a home ownership.
Right.
That have very young families and not of school age necessarily. In fact, I don't believe there's very few out there at all right now, and there's over 40 houses there.
Because again, I think schools has to be a consideration for this.
For your
I think-
back 200 that you're going to be building, are they going to be the same as what they're currently building?
That's correct.
Because originally, when your son applied for this, it was like $150,000 to $250,000 home, custom homes with the plan and the 3 pools, and those are advertised as 120.
No, they're advertising, but the homes that they've sold out there now have been above 175.
Okay.
And they're approaching 200 now.
Are they? Okay, and what is the square footage of?
They run 1,700 to 2,200 square feet.
Okay.
It looked to me like there's a lot of single garage homes that probably are just guesstimating, looking at it from the street, I would say 1,400 square feet.
Yeah, no, sir, they're above that, but they are single carport because of the lot size. What happens is when people are moving out of apartments, and you know, they're usually one-car families. And these are people who are starting, have accumulated, been living with their mom and dads, and they're getting out on their own. And because of the interest rate and the demand, they're interested. That product is really hitting home to them.
But the standards that were shown in the original approval for garage openings that face the street, the houses that are being built now don't look like they meet those standards.
But they do.
They look like the unacceptable
Yes,
when I drove
some
by.
of them are two-car garage, and some of them are single car. But they're all the lots and all the footages on the front are all the same.
Well, housing design, which, you know, looking at this, you know, this is what I'm seeing out there.
Yes, sir. You have your garages that are on the front. When we first started the subdivision, when my son built those homes, they have been a continuation all the way through. It's more of what is in demand, what the customer is preferring. And with the trees, of course, we all plant trees out there on them too. But those front a front-loaded garage is what you can build on those lots.
And you said you're going to be putting trees on each of the lots?
Yes,
or-
ma'am.
Okay, because it's
Yes, ma'am.
fairly barren
Yes, ma'am.
right now.
You have to do that mass grade when you develop those on those
Yeah, it'll
small
help with
lots.
the, yeah.
Well, parenthetically, can I insert a comment, Mr. Elliott? Just, one of the things that I do hate is to see a new development that's been Shermanized. Looks like General Sherman came through and
Yes.
on his march to the sea. And I know because I used to build and develop land and build houses. Then I spent over 40 years in banking, financing real estate, especially home building and residential development. I do know it's possible to develop sites and save good, decent-sized caliper trees and build around them. I know you don't want them in the foundation or in the water and sewer lines, but and you have to consider the roots and all. But and I know it's a lot easier to just send somebody out there with a dozer and just say run them all down. Whatever we could do to bring that into consideration, and if we put it in the code, that's an aside. Now, other than that aside, I do have a question. I'm not sure who to ask about this, but my feeble old memory says I heard within the last 3 or 4 months, I think in this room, I believe it was in a city council meeting, perhaps it was you. Someone said our water and sewer system only allowed, we had a sufficient capacity to allow for something like 85 new taps beyond what was already existing. And I'll have to go back or maybe somebody can dig that out of the city council meeting minutes or something, but I swear there was a reference to a limit of 85 new dwellings to be attached to our existing system before it was, and this at 200 and some odd, plus the other building that we've had going on. I'm wondering, how do we, maybe it's not in our purview, but I'm concerned about approving something with 200 houses in it when I'm under the impression that we don't have nearly the capacity to handle that many new units.
This particular development goes to our north plant on wastewater.
Mm-hmm.
We roughly estimated that capacity to be about 850
Ah.
we can serve.
Perhaps I misunderstood the comment at the earlier meeting.
We're not down that low, no, sir. We wouldn't even be here talking.
Well, I was thinking, I didn't know what.
Yeah, now we got plenty of room in our west plant, but this area of Douglas goes to the north plant, and that's where our capacity is.
Ah, okay. All right. Oh, but we've got sufficient
Yes.
there for 800 new units. Okay. All right.
And-
Sorry.
Of course, you know, as we move on in the future with the future development in that area, it's going to we're gonna have an issue at some point. And we're working on that with some design.
Well, can I ask, Mr. Chairman, whoever the right person is to ask, when we have an application that's going to involve new construction, because, you know, a permit for a new hotel with 300 rooms in it is a pretty significant hit on our capacity as well as detached single family. And so can we get somebody to say, when we get an application of this type, what we estimate our capacity at and how we're going to absorb the effect of this new?
We will have looked at that way prior to you guys.
Okay. But I mean, I
Under
just,
staff recommendations, it's in here like with
If we get into a
schools and that.
situation where we feel like we can't handle it.
Right.
Y'all won't even see it,
okay,
because it won't come here.
Right.
all right.
Because if we can't serve it, then there's no point in,
No point in bringing forward, no. Okay. All right, just so long as we're looking at that.
oh, yes, sir, we definitely are.
Now, are there water and sewer lines currently in place out there? So there's nothing new that the city has to do?
No, sir.
Well, they're in the
There-
existing part.
And in this.
Well, you've already run trunk lines?
That's why I said it was so front-loaded,
Mhm.
because the sewer was in the back. So we had to develop the whole system with water and sewer before we ever got to the front. So it's all already installed.
Yeah, this application is more of a clerical upgrade.
That's
than anything else.
exactly what it is. It's typically, preliminary plan is good for 1 year, if nothing's done. And he's been working in phase one, we understand it's been a long time. So it was my direction that we're here tonight. I wanted the plant to be upgraded. And that's, that's where we're headed.
And this may be a question more for you also. What about, is there any impact on the Connors Road Park development, which is immediately adjacent to the west,
To the east.
to the
Yeah.
east? Okay,
Just the parcel right next to this.
right. Yeah, I knew
I
it.
think the park is probably what's attracting the young people
That's right.
to that,
Okay, if they ever get started with it.
which is in our comprehensive plan right there in the middle, our big
Okay.
chunk of youngins.
So the park goes back up, and then there's a question in here about, no, that the subject does not abut a body of water, but isn't there a creek up there on the north side?
Not on my piece, it's way past.
Oh, okay.
All the drainage.
So that'll be up through the park, but not next to this.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Yeah, I don't see any on here.
All right, so I have a few questions for you. I'm in real estate. So, what number of floor plans do you currently offer in your development?
There's 4 there, there may be 6.
Okay. Are you planning to elevate that and have,
Well, the Wade Journeyman Homes is the fastest home builder in the United States,
Mhm.
fastest growing. And so they're very sharp outfit, and they're modifying what the people want.
Okay.
And of course, that's what sells.
okay, and the siding is vinyl siding or is it concrete?
All concrete.
Concrete to help with the longevity of,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. And then what about green space and the facilities? Because my concern with that many people coming in, they're going to try to come over into the Mirror Lake and utilize that
Green
instead of,
space all the way through the project.
okay, that you're going to build in, and you said up to 3 pools? It was originally what I read. Is that going to continue?
It has the swimming pool that's there.
Right.
And the 2 tennis courts in the clubhouse are.
There now.
Enough there that's already built.
Right.
For the whole project.
For the whole so that would be the only pool for all,
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But it's an Olympic, it's a big pool.
okay. And then that would be part of the homeowners association and fees? Okay. And it's a mandatory homeowner?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, who is responsible for the HOA? You?
Yes, ma'am. Right now, yes, sir. I'll I run it, but it won't be, forever. The customers will run their own.
Well, but after 85 or 90% of the homes or
That's
something.
usually,
Yeah,
that's
that's
usually
typical.
about the time, about 85%.
I mean, we've been dealing with that in Mirror Lake for 20 years,
Yes, sir. That's it.
and it's a problem.
You will for a little while
And we
longer.
will for a little while.
Yeah.
Because in addition to those 200 homes, there are another 1,000 homes to be built out yet in Mirror Lake.
That's correct.
So hopefully all of that north plant will handle all of that, so.
Need bigger pipes.
Yeah.
We're probably going to, we're looking at either expanding it or transferring a lot of the additional flow to the west plant.
Now, there is some water from Douglas County coming into Mirror Lake.
We don't purchase any more from Douglas County. We have the capability to, but we're not purchasing.
But isn't part of Mirror Lake served by Douglas County Water?
I don't
No.
think so, no.
It's all city.
It's all city.
No, the water that goes into Mirror Lake comes from our west plant.
They hate us. They hate us.
Okay.
No, that's complicated. We won't go into.
Yeah, we
He's
don't,
nicer than I
we
am,
don't
but-
do that.
It's complicated.
All right, do we want to, any other questions you guys have?
No, I don't have it. Do you have any questions? Okay.
No, that answers
All
mine.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
At
you.
this time, is there anyone else who'd like to speak in favor of this proposal? No takers? All right, at this time, is there anyone in opposition to this proposal? No takers? Okay, at this point, the public section is closed. Any recommendations?
I move approval.
We have a motion to approve this. Is there a second?
A second.
We have a motion and a second to approve, what is this saying, an amendment, or what would you call it? A preliminary plat. Have a motion and a second to approve this preliminary plat. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Make sure you come to the city council meeting next Tuesday. Because they're the ones that are going to, the final approval, right here. Sure,
Yeah, this was just your warm-up. This was your rehearsal for the.
that's right.
This is the easy part.
This was dress rehearsal.
Been doing this for 50 years, believe me.
Yeah, he knows. He knows. Oh, yeah.
You might want to add some chickens or maybe some goats too.
Right, yeah, they like barter.
Need a rooster. That's a rooster, so. Thank you.
We got enough of them.
And then, you want to read it, or
Yeah, RA 04-17, David Wiley of Dallas, Georgia, requests a rezoning for property at 1030 3rd Street, Villa Rica. Parcel number V0301000013 and land lot 190 of the 6th District in Carroll County, currently zone R20 to limited industrial. The property consists of 10.81 plus or minus acres and is located in Ward 3. I called the applicants this evening. I called Mr. Robinson and I called Mr. Wiley at 4 o'clock this evening, and he said that he was not going to be able to make it to the hearing tonight, and he'd like to be deferred for 30 days. So it's up to the discretion of the commission.
So he's not withdrawing, he's just deferring.
He's not withdrawing. I believe he's out of town.
okay.
I was trying to get something from him in writing for you all, but
Mr. Chairman, I move that we table this until the next meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to table this. All those in favor? It's tabled.
next staff comments. Got the update from our comp plan consultants, and that was the bulk of what the update was going to be this evening.
Okay.
I believe we got the development regulations are moving forward to city council for review. We do have one nomination to the Historic Preservation Commission that is going to be considered.
Nomination to what?
To the Historic Preservation
okay.
Commission. You had a few, one application in particular come in for one of the historical markers. And that's all that I really have.
I have something I wanted to talk to both of you about, Bobby, you too. With Mr. Wiley, I feel like some of that was on a miscommunication of not correct, like, He definitely had what he had, but I feel like we didn't communicate effectively. Like, he felt like he could, like we didn't do our part to make him understand the process he needed to do. Is there any way we can probably clean that up a little bit where he understands? Because he went in front of the city council when it wasn't legally, he, I guess, was supposed to come back here because he changed the plan, but
Well, actually, the reason that the council did not send it back to the planning commission, because at that time, he had not changed his plan.
and then he changed it,
He changed it the week after
right,
the city council did.
right.
And of course, when he did that, it automatically has to come back to you.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I think it wasn't communicated to him that because he went back to the city council and they told him he had to come back to us.
No, actually, he came to the council. They tabled it for 30 days.
Yes.
Not to come back to
No.
y'all. For their,
And then he changed.
he changed it. And quite honestly, I talked to Mr. Wiley
A lot.
2 or 3 different times, and I had him convinced, and then his frustration took over, and
Okay.
he
I just-
almost got his application turned down.
Yes, I know. Yeah, I'm aware. But I just want to make sure with all of this, we're restructuring so much that I feel like, we're still trying to clean up all that the mess that's been, not no one in this room's fault, but just,
Yeah.
that's been there, and that I just wanted to make sure we don't frustrate.
Counsel by Bobby and I throughout this entire
Okay.
process.
I just wanted to ask because I did not want that to be,
In fact, he asked me one day, he said, look, my partner, who's sometimes partner, he's been my friend for a long time, and he's a lot better at a public meeting than I am. What do you think? He said, because I'm new at this. And I'm like, well, if your friend is comfortable doing this, convey to what you want and let him do your presentation.
right,
If something happened, he didn't do that.
Okay.
But David gets,
yeah.
he gets frustrated, and he doesn't just get frustrated, he just goes off the deep end with,
Mm-hmm,
he just goes crazy.
yeah.
Well, he was totally confused when he presented here. In fact, during the meeting, he got up and walked over to talk to you about what he was presenting. I mean, that was totally
And you know,
confused.
he talked about, the rehab facility came up in the middle of, gosh, I don't know where it came from, but I'm like,
He brought up things that
at the council,
council
at
that
city
he
council.
did not say to us ever.
You're right,
or
yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I was just looking,
Okay.
I'm like,
okay.
I don't know where that.
So there's really nothing to vet for that, it's just him
Yeah,
being
but-
him.
but-
Okay.
You know,
I just wanted to make sure if we needed to clarify any kind of process.
We'd like to see what we'd like to see on the site plan.
Yeah.
You tell us what you
Yeah.
want to do. Does anything to make it an easier decision for the commission to make and the council to make only helps you out.
Yeah, yeah.
And you see his application is kind of vague. You've asked a lot for different things.
Yes.
Um,
That's fine, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
you know, first, not to be kicking the fellow when he's down, but he did a hand drawing. And we're like, look,
Right, you can't do that.
you know,
Yeah.
you gotta give the commission something solid to look at, you know?
Right.
Well, and he had a little bit of issue of understanding old boy network versus reality, so,
Yeah.
Well, you know, I don't, you know, sometimes you can try to explain that all day long, but then if somebody goes through it a couple times, they really
yeah.
understand.
And it's
What
a
I
learning
try to
process, it's a
tell
learning
this 'cause
process.
way back when I did the county is that pretend I'm a buyer.
Yeah.
Don't pretend I'm an approver. I want to buy what you're selling. So I need pictures.
Yeah.
I need costs. I need, what's your vision? Put it all on paper, and then that's what we're going to look at,
And sell it.
and then sell it to me. That's what you do. And, but like you said, there's some that are like, well, hey, let me show you what it's going to look like. I'm like, no.
Well, that's.
Well,
I
and the
just wanted to make-
problem too is with him removing the equipment storage, what is he asking for? You know, why bother with this at all?
Now, or some will just say, for investment purposes, I want to switch it to industrial, and so anything that falls under industrial, light industrial, whatever, because there's industrial all around it, period. And so,
And that's presumably where he is.
yeah, and so that's fine.
Well, it's one reason why it's so important on us. Sometimes these conditions that we put on an approval or different things that it's so important that we get that codified and put into the approval as a condition or something, because when you change to a zoning classification, that opens up the ability for an owner to do a myriad of
Right.
things under that zoning classification. And when you just kind of get a general, open, new classification on something, that means they can come back in and put in a building permit for anything
Yep.
that is permitted under that classification.
Now,
And whatever he might have said here off the cuff doesn't cut any ice whatsoever.
Well, but I was going to make that as part of a motion, that anything that he does to that property has to come back to planning and zoning for subsequent approval.
Right, well, see, whatever, but the safeguard is supposed to be that he has to get a building.
yeah, I don't think, yeah.
The important thing is first he has to
All right,
show
well,
up.
let's, yeah.
We'll speak back with him.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to ask you, Lenise, is there any other neighborhoods coming down the pike that, I mean, because, that's a 200 one right there, and I've heard talk of some others, so I didn't know, is there's,
Yeah, next month you will be considering 2 annexations,
okay,
for
Well, actually, y'all won't be considering the annexation C, the zonings that go with it.
the zoning.
Right.
That's right.
is it the ones over 61, or where,
We have a couple down the 61 corridor,
yeah,
and we have one off in the Pool Road area.
Okay.
Liberty Road,
okay,
73 lots,
there too,
residential development. yes.
okay. 'Cause I know, I know some people anyway, and they were talking about trying to do one across from Bay Springs, that area, they're still trying to,
Yeah, that's one of the ones we're talking about.
Okay. okay.
Do y'all track, as you get these new approvals here and the activity is picking up, do you track the potential number of new lots that have been approved but not yet built on, so that you kind of got an idea of what the pipeline might contain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would be which plant? The Liberty Road would be this one over here, but the 61 would be the other water plant? Yeah, okay. And that's the one that's the
Yeah, plenty of room.
plenty of room. Okay.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting for this guy with this new area, because I'm not convinced that things are opening up all that much.
I don't know. It seems to be moving.
I mean, he's got a lot of houses in Phase 1 that are still for sale.
We'll see.
Yeah, but you were just out there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looked like they were putting a push on for the spring market.
Mhm.
They're buying a lot of permits.
I was about to say, I know,
I've seen a lot of,
I've seen some hot markets on the entry-level housing, when all you had to do was just stand out there with a order pad and just, write contract
the
after
bottom
contract.
line is whether it takes you an hour or not, we are geographically the closest place to the city of Atlanta left that hasn't been developed, so.
Plus that park, I'm telling you, everything I've been reading at work and everything else with the millennials, they always throw that
Yeah.
term out, is work, live, play.
Mhm.
There's the park, they walk around in it, stare at their navel.
And they can
whatever
walk
do,
to it from
you
where
know.
they're living up.
Right.
I think it's called exercise, Kurt.
What is that?
Oh, I go to the Golds for that.
You know what that is?
I watch videos.
I think it's called exercise. All right.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Wait a minute, no, I gotta make that. No, we got one more. Okay, at this point, is there anybody want to make a public comment?
No.
No, okay,
You
now.
Not saying anything.
He's afraid.
All right,
He knows.
that's right. So we close the public comment section. Now, we have a motion for adjournment. Second,
Second.
all those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, we adjourn. We always like praise.
That's the politician.